This right here is my trade which I took yesterday on the FOMC news. All right, I'm going to break it down to you guys, and if at any point it turns out to be something that you all basically would like to understand, all right, now I'm going to break it down to you guys so you can understand every single thing that I did right here and how it played out for me. All right, so this is basically the analysis that I use, and every single thing is already been mapped out. All right, I just left it like this because this was something that I was looking at and it works for me. All right, so quickly, in case you do not know what FOMC basically is basically a Federal Open Markets Committee, which is a branch of a US Reserve which makes decisions for monetary policy. All right, and also the person that basically comes out with this news is a very popular person. In case you are not into the trading community, or if you are not into trading, you basically need to do more research about that. All right, you basically need to get more info. All right, so on this spot, I'm going to break every single thing down for you guys and how I was able to identify this trade. So I started watching the trade from the very starting. All right, so right from here we have a break of structure, and then they push to the upside, and from this particular week I have a change of character to the downside. All right, now once we change character, right, once we change direction, we're basically going to continue having a break of structure towards the downside. All right, so we had a break of structure right below right here again, and immediately we change direction and we do not break below this week right here. Maybe we do not break below this particular week right here. Let me mark it out. Immediately we do not break below this week right over here. Now we have a change of character on this spot, and also liquidity being swept right from here. All right, so once we have this identified correctly, then the next thing that we're going to be focusing on is where the market is basically going from now. All right, so that is one of the important things that you need to know. It's best for you to know how to identify market structure. All right, in terms of your trading, try as much as possible to identify market structure, know where the market is basically going, so you can basically trade correctly. All right, and if at any point you don't know how the market is moving, then that is where you're going to be making your first mistakes. All right, so you have to know where the market is going, how the market is basically playing out, and if at any point it is playing in your direction, then you are going to basically like trade these things correctly. Now I'm going to like delete this. All right, so let me just break it down for you guys more. All right, so after we have this liquidity being swept right from here, let me break it in a little bit. All right, then we have another liquidity right below. This is basically like a break of structure right over here, and we have our order block right from here. Now we all wanted to identify if at any point this particular week is going to be swept out before it pushed to the upside, and if at any point this week is being swept out with a full body candle, then it's a change of character to the downside. All right, but after marking it out, I have to place my entry right from here, and I'm going to identify why I place my entry right from here for you guys to understand. All right, so if I zoom in a little bit, you're going to be noticing from here, if you're trading, all right, just try as much as possible to be familiar with the Fib2. All right, so the Fib2 is basically something that you need to be familiar with. Now this is how the Fib2 is. All right, so from here you notice that we have a push to the upside, and then the trend is reversing back to the downside. So how are we going to identify a correct spot or a correct position for us to buy from? All right, now if you notice from here, we have a move from the downside, and then we have it to the upside right over here. And once you have your move from the downside, you have it to the upside right over here. Now at this point right over here, we have what we call 0.786%. This is the zone right over here. So we mark this as our buy zone, and right below, right, the 1% zone right over here, we mark it as our stop loss. So we use from 0.786 to 1 right over here as our stop loss. All right, and from this zone here we're going to be marking as our entry point. Now I marked this as my entry point, and after marking this as my entry point, then the top of this week was basically my take profit, which I actually marked out. All right, you don't need to be greedy. You don't need to basically push your take profit to as high as basically the top. You just have to place it in a very, very clear direction where if at any point you hit your take profit, you're still going to be making some money from it. All right, and also try as much as possible to reduce your stop loss if at any point you are basically trading news. All right, so that you don't get basically wiped out from your trades. So what I did right over here was for me to wait and see how many times it's actually going to retrace, right? Mind you, FOMC is basically a news that is very, very, very volatile, right? It can change direction anytime, any moment, any day. If you are basically trading this and you do not have patience, you're going to end up losing your money. All right, now if you check very well, we are close to our stop loss as of this point, which I clearly wanted to step out of this particular trade, but I head in and we had a reversal. Now we had multiple rejection to the downside, right? You can basically see a lot of wicks coming in right over here, and as long as I kept on seeing the green candles right over here, I just decided to let this trade run. All right, now from this particular point right here, after seeing this, what I did for myself was I decided to continue watching the trade, because this particular candle showed me a clear sign that we're actually having a change in direction. Then I left the trade, and you can basically see it went all the way up, and we had another reversal to the downside and reversed back up to hit our take profit right on this zone. Now if at any point you're trading these and you get scared and you step out of the market, all right, you would have been either in losses or in small amount of profit. All right, that is why if at any point you're trying to trade, know the amount of money you're risking, and at the same time make sure you risk what you can basically still come back and recover. All right, so let me open up my Telegram community so that I'll share with you guys every single thing you can see. So this is basically my Telegram community right over here, and I basically drop every single information. So this was the trade right over here. Let me step out of here. So this was the trade, all right, after marking every single thing, and this was basically when the trade was actually moving upside. This was when the trade was actually moving to my direction, all right, and this was kind of like a profit that I made, and after he went up to our take profit. All right, so you can see right now that these are just my analysis and also other trades that I've actually like analyzed so far. And if at any point you see right from here, this particular trade right here, I was up about $590, and when we hit our take profit, you can see that I made over $1,738 dollars right over here. All right, so you can basically see this was the trade that I took, and it was actually profitable for me. Now if you want to follow up with analysis, if you basically want to like trade, you can come along, follow us, and become part of the family. All right, link of the Telegram community is going to be dropped for you guys, and if at any point I can still continue making videos about my analysis, I'm going to be making more videos, and I'll be sharing with you guys more videos so you can understand what I basically do right here. All right, so if you enjoyed this video, do make sure to drop a thumbs up, and do not forget, this is Crypto Alpha.